Everyone. Good, yeah. How is everybody doing tonight? Gonna give it a few minutes before I get started, and we will get going. Yeah, Luffy, I am a very big One Piece fan. Usopp, actually. Yeah, I agree. He was very annoying pre-time skip. Um, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we can probably talk if you want to talk a little more One Piece. I'm always down to talk over Discord. But I'm gonna focus since we have a few more people joining right now. So hello, everybody. I'm gonna wait still a few more minutes before I officially get going, since it's a very short workshop that it's gonna be. But yeah, just a quick overview of what we're gonna be doing. So this workshop is basically meant to be for anybody that is starting out in the game dev track. I find that a lot of the time people don't really know where to find assets, and for me, my main interest in programming is game development. I'm currently interning at EA. It's my second time with them. I love game dev, have since I started programming. And when I started, and even still, whenever I'm prototyping projects, I always want to use art. I'm the type of person that I like visuals. So to some degree, I always like to have some art or something that I can use. And because I'm mainly a programmer, I don't really have a lot of the skills or oftentimes the time needed to do it. So these are just some websites that I have found where you can find good game assets and stuff for either for free or for very cheap. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. So we have a few more people joining. All right, I'll get going. So hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining me today on our first time slot. You guys saw on the schedule, this workshop is scheduled to be very short, 30 minutes on the schedule. To be totally honest with you, I doubt that I'll honestly take up the 30 minutes. This workshop is meant to be, I just had the same spiel recently, but for anybody that joined now, this workshop is meant to be more than anything because, for me, I like game development probably more than any other area of programming. It's my favorite hobby probably in programming. And I find that for myself, as well as a lot of other game developers, when you start out and you're trying to prototype your projects and stuff, or you're going to a game jam or a hackathon like right now, you're trying to work on something. Oftentimes, you either don't want to waste the time on very basic assets, or you don't really have an artist, somebody dedicated on your team that is able to use all of those assets, right? Or to create all those assets for you. So we're going to go over a few websites that I know that I have found that are very useful, as well as a couple of other communities for getting either free game assets or getting them for very cheap. So first and foremost is one that you guys might know. It's Open Game Art. So Open Game Art is a really awesome website. It's meant to be, as you can see, it looks a little bit outdated, but I promise there's some really good stuff here. So this website is really meant to be exactly what it sounds like. It's meant to be a bit of an open community and a place for game developers to come and be able to access their own stuff. So like I said, it looks a little bit outdated. But when you're trying to go, basically, you can just come here to browse. And you can choose what kind of stuff you're looking for. So for me, I tend to do a lot of 2D art because I work on a lot of projects on my own. So whenever you come to the 2D art section, as you'll see, we have all of these packs over here. Assets in Open Game Art can be filtered by all of these things, by all of these art types. You can get tags depending on what it is that you're looking for. But these are all free game assets. To my understanding, I don't think there's anything on Open Game Art that you have to pay for. That is why it's called Open Game Art. It is a community, by game developers where they share assets for game developers. A lot of these, as you'll see, tend to be a little more basic. So, for example, we can take a look at this. So the tiles and stuff. by all context is a little basic. It's going to be a simple tile map. But these assets tend to be so valuable when it comes to, for example, as I was saying, a lot of the times you're not really going to want to spend the time in your event making making grass, right? Making a grass tile map. When you're trying to figure out how you want your mechanics to work and how you want all of that stuff, to not waste the time on the art, this is a very, very good starter pack if you're trying to do like a top-down 2D kind of game. If you're looking for something more like a platformer, for example, we also have right over here, actually, right on the money. This is a simple platform asset pack. Right over here, you can basically see the description of it. It tells you what exactly it is that it comes with. So in this case, I believe, yeah, so we get a few partly animated characters right over here. This is the animation sheet for any of you guys that have worked with Unity or Godot engine. I don't know how well Unreal handles these 3D assets, but both Godot engine and Unity engine have really easy ways that you can kind of just drop all of these images from the tile map in the tile sheet into, I believe it's called the animation manager in Godot. They both have a system where you kind of just drop the animations into your character, and you can just program them very simply. So they'll go through the sequences. And again, all of these are completely free. It includes also things like music and sound effects, which is something that I always like to show people. I don't know if you could hear that, but if you didn't, it was very, very loud. All of these are basically assets that you can use, whether you're looking for simple sound effects, whether you're looking for menu music, things like that. When you're trying to get your game to just look a little bit more alive, especially again in a hackathon, to use some of these free assets is just a very, very good resource that I highly recommend all of you take advantage of. You can sort by all of these things. You can order them how you want. You can even choose the amount of items per page. Pretty old, outdated kind of looking site, but it has a very good system. Can recommend. So that's Open Game Art. The next one, if you've been, if you've worked as a game developer, if you've done any game development, you've probably heard of itch.io. Itch.io is very much like, the home base for indie games, not only for indie game sales and for sharing of them, but also a lot for assets, right? So where is it? Yes, community. There we go, assets. So when you basically go to browse games, and you can come over here to the asset sales. Over here you can choose by, again, the itch.io is much more modern, but it's a standard site. You can choose to sort by all the things you would choose to. You can search up tags. You will notice that some of these are paid. Some of these assets are paid because a lot of developers make, some nice income by submitting their assets to itch.io, and then other developers that come around that want to use them can choose to check out their stuff. But if you want to sort by free, you always can, and all of these are completely free. Whether you're looking for stickers or you're looking, simple dungeon tile sets. That's also something that's very nice about these assets, that they're very varied. So over here you have a tile set for a dungeon, but then over here you also have button prompts. If you're making a simple game over the weekend, some of these button prompts will be very useful for a lot of people. Simple objects, very cute, simple animations, exactly what you might want. Something like this is very useful. A ridiculous amount of variety if you're trying to make, for example, like I have a friend that for a game jam, they basically made a game where they just had a lot of they wanted to have a lot of differing kind of internal layouts, so they use an asset tile pack like this. It was very nice. So yeah, that is itch.io. The other thing about itch.io is that you can always get, it doesn't have to be free. There are a lot of assets that you can get for very cheap. If you sort by on sale, you'll see that most of these are $15 is a bit much. Well, but something like this, for example, like a modern office for like $250, very, very nice. Because all of these assets, once you purchase them, you do get access to them permanently. They're added to your account. So for example, I always recommend to people, if you can, invest in a couple of simple asset packs like this that you like, these are fantastic for reusing, whether you're trying to prototype a new idea or, you just want, again, simple, tried and true, basic tiles for some of the things that you like from these packs. So whether you have like, if you like the button prompts from the other pack that I showed you guys, you can always reuse those for any game that you make, right? And there's no real reason to change that. So if that asset pack was paid, I might pay for it if it was like $5, because I know that if any game that I work on that has it, I can always use that pack. So that is itch.io. There's not a whole lot to say to it. I mean, I feel like itch.io is a site that if as you do more games, it's a very good resource. Definitely recommend always checking out. You can sort by prices, whatever it is that you're looking for. 16-bit versus I believe you can also set other resolution, things like that. So very good site, always reliable. I really like it. Up next, we have Game Dev Market. Man, Game Dev Market is a similar story to itch.io. It has 2D assets, 3D assets, but some of these are paid, some of these are not. With this one, it's a little bit different in that you can kind of sort by a little more specific things. So as we're looking for characters, let's check out some animals, and we're gonna sort by free because that's what this workshop is about. Yeah, some of the same stuff that you'd expect to find. Really good for background little details if you're trying to set to a setting in your game or something. Most of these assets will come in very handy. And if you sort by paid as well, a lot of the times you'll find, like I said, very cheap assets. Can I set the price range? Guess not. But yeah, this website, very similar story, but it offers a different set of assets. So if you're ever looking for something, you're not able to really find it on itch.io, then you can always rely on Game Dev Market. It also includes selections for audio, for GUI. Like I mentioned, this one is a little bit easier to sort by sometimes because it gives you all of these options. So if I want to look up some game jazz music, can't really listen to this. This person played Persona, that's for sure. And yeah, like I said, it's just a simple resource, very useful. And then we have one more that I'm sure a lot of you probably know, but might not know as a resource for game assets. Humble Bundle, a lot of you know as just where you can get really good games. I personally love their bundles, but they often have unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they have any available at the moment. No, but they often do a lot of bundles, which will include assets for either game development, or they'll often include, for example, books. So you'll often have book assets, which will include a variety of books on different types of game development. But the main thing that I often like about Humble Bundle, and honestly, I check back on Humble Bundle much more looking for game dev assets than I do for like the actual Humble Bundle games. A couple of my favorite asset packs that I have bought were on Humble Bundle for like $20, and they basically included, it was no exaggeration, like 24 different just sets of resources for games. That included some tiles, it included sound effects, it included some characters, some basic animations. Some of them basically had like a little game packed into one in terms of it included like a tile map, it included an actual character, it included some enemy characters, all of it with animations. I use the resources from that pack pretty much in every 2D game that I make nowadays because it has pretty much everything that I might need. And again, I only pay like $20 for it. One of my favorite things that I have gotten to buy in terms of game assets, definitely that. And like I said, it came from Humble Bundle. Also, I find that it's surprisingly often that Humble Bundle has those kind of sales, whether it be, like I said, assets. I've seen some sales on like software that can be useful for game development and things like that, as well as books. So Humble Bundle, a really good resource I can recommend, checking back on it every once in a while. And then I had one more, which is actually on Reddit. We're going to go to game assets. Yeah. So there's a few subreddits that I can recommend. Yeah, Humble Bundle is fantastic. There's a few subreddits that I can recommend. There's always like the game development subreddit. There is this one, the game assets. There's also free game assets, although I just don't recommend free game assets because that one only has like 800 or something like that people using it. So game assets is very active. Not everything that is shared here is free, but for example, right there, first post that I see, second post, is a free stylized shotgun. And, this is very much a community, which is something that I like about it. When you go to these other sites, it's very much a marketplace, but when you're working on this subreddit, there's a lot of times that you see simple interactions with people, as well as it can be a place for, connecting with other people that just enjoy making game assets, whether they be for sale or not. I mean, this one right here, free content, free content. Most of these that are included tend to be because people just want to share them because they're free. And again, it's just one of those things where it's just developers giving back to developers. So that's one thing that I very much like about, Reddit communities when it comes to game dev. I find that there's a lot of stuff there where people are just like, sharing stuff that they found, that they've either found or they built that they found useful, and so they share it to others. You'll find similar things on, like I said, the game dev subreddit. I've seen people, for example, that they made like a Unity extension for a problem that they had in their game, and they found it very useful, so they just shared it for free on the game dev subreddit. And that's now a resource that a lot of other people have. So that's game assets. Like I said, you can kind of scroll through here, always look for whatever it is that you're looking for. I don't know if they have. Oh, look, that's very useful. There you go. You can even sort by flares here. So if you sort by code flares, for example, that's useful. And is this GitHub still active? Oh, it's a GitHub. Well, there you go. This is useful. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So this is a GUI dialogue editor, and right here it's included for free. So if you're trying to build any dialogue with your game, it might be very useful. When was this one? And 6 hours ago, so it's completely new. So you know that it's going to be up to date. Yeah, I mean, like this one is just a very useful subreddit. I guess I can go to game dev, which was the other one that, yeah, the other one that I wanted to show. So game dev is, as I said, not specifically for game development, but it is, rather not specifically for assets, but it is completely involved with game development. Working with JavaScript. Yeah, you would definitely be able to use this with web games. You'll see that for the most part, when it comes to these assets, when people share them, they're always sharing them in a format that can be used as widely as possible. For example, that tile sheet that I showed you earlier with those characters, it shows it as one image, but most of the time when it comes to those, what you'll actually find in the actual, like when you download the asset pack, is there will be a folder that will be all of the individual frames of the animation together. So at that point, they'll just be like multiple frames, each one of them being like its own JPEG, usually a PNG actually. This is where the format that I see most. So it'll be like all 16 frames in like a PNG format, every single frame being its own PNG. So at that point, you can just load them up into a file or however you want to use them, and you iterate them through in a simple animation system. And you can build that all with JavaScript. And by the way, there are some JavaScript libraries that are built for game development. There's one that I remember because it was actually my first open source contribution, was like a fix on the documentation for that library. I don't even think I ever used it for a game though, which was funny. But yeah, so there's some libraries that are already built using JavaScript that do allow you to use some game development, like functionality that is normally reserved for those game engines. And yeah, you'll be able to use all of these images with them. That's the point. Yeah, so that is game dev, r/game dev. I just pulled up this post because it seems like a very nice post in terms of, again, this looks very similar. This actually might be the one that we saw on OpenGameArt. I think it is. So yeah, this is actually the same asset that we saw on OpenGameArt earlier, which is funny. And it's just shared completely for free on the game dev subreddit. Here you can also just have a lot more discussion on whether it be questions that you're having. But if you want to sort by assets, you can go ahead and sort by assets, and it'll usually say whether they're free or not. And actually, this brings me to the last one that I was going to mention, which is, so we brought up that you can use all of these things for like JavaScript based or just not traditional game engines. However, if you are working in a traditional game engine like Unity, you do have access to the Unity Asset Store. And I personally don't often grab paid resources from here, just because I find that a lot of the time they tend to be a little more on the pricier side than I would like to pay. Because again, I do a lot of 2D stuff. I find that a lot of the nicer resources here tend to be on for 3D things. But the Unity Asset Store, if you're working in Unity specifically, of course, is very useful for the simple fact that for all of these assets is as simple as just importing them. Most of the time, when you even open the Unity asset store like panel through the engine, it'll just take you here, and then it's just a simple prompt that downloads it into your engine. And a lot of the time, that means that you don't really have to do any work as far as setting it up, because it'll all be already set up because it's built to be used with the engine that you're using right now. And see right here, this is this is what I mean. Not something I'm really willing to pay right there. But you can always, of course, sort by price. And you'll see right here that we do have a huge selection of free assets that are always accessible. Again, for me, I tend to prefer those other sites because I find that their free offerings tend to be a little better. But if you're, for example, just getting started and you don't really want to bother having to, I guess, learn the process to set them up in the engine individually, or if you're just looking for the convenience of it, then getting assets directly from the asset store of whatever engine you're using, if you are using an engine, is useful. Same thing for the Unreal Engine. Actually, this might just ask me to download the Epic Launcher. Oh no, there we go. I don't use Unreal very much, just to be honest. And yeah, this is another example, simple asset store, very useful. And I guess one thing that I do want to point out, I mentioned it earlier, but when you're looking for assets here, it isn't restricted to art, right? A lot of the times, if you're looking for simple systems, like this right here would be a very useful addition, which is just like a ray tracing kind of detection system. If you don't want to build this yourself, coming on here and paying $5 for it, a very, very nice investment, because the amount of time that you would spend figuring out the logic on how to make your character be able to hit whatever entities there are, and you can spend a very, very good amount of time on a mechanic like that, especially when you're starting out. Once you've implemented the same type of mechanic a few times, you start learning the patterns for it and it becomes easier. But a lot of the times, if you just don't want to do the heavy lifting, or if you want like an easy way out for it, then finding a code asset or a code solution is a very, very good approach. That is it. In all honesty, like I said, this workshop is very short. I like to teach it because I know that when I first started going to these events, I didn't really know where to look. So I always like to kind of provide a place for people to access all of these. I will be sending all of these resources that we went over on a message. I will be pinning that in the game dev channel in the server. So if anybody wants to reference them, you're always welcome to. And I mean, with that, I guess I'll stay. I'll hang out a little bit if anybody has any questions that they want to send in the chat. But that does conclude our workshop. So awesome. So yeah, if anybody has any more questions or any curiosities or anything like that, feel free to send them in the chat. Yes, I'll send them. I'll pin them in the game development channel on the Discord, because they will go away if I leave them here. But yeah, I'll send them in the chat just in case you guys want them now. Open GameWorks. The market, and then I am not doing the Unity workshop tomorrow. I taught a Unity workshop in the past, but we have another one of our team members teaching that. But yeah, the Unity workshop was actually the first workshop that I taught through the club. That was one of my early involvements. But yeah, now with just ShellHacks and everything, I don't really. I prefer to lead it to some other people. And we also have a Unity VR workshop happening as well, which is actually, I believe, is it in the next time slot or maybe the one after? But we have a Unity VR workshop. So if you're looking to get introduced to Unity in a VR context, can recommend. We have one of our organizers who actually works in a VR research lab at a university teaching it. Let me double check. Good question. When is the Unity VR? All of the workshops, just a quick reminder, are on the Hopin schedule. So if you go to your home screen, and you can actually just check there. But I will tell you right now. Intro to VR development is at 12 a.m. So you actually have a good 30 minutes, and then Unity VR will be up in 30 minutes or so. I will say, I believe that he does walk you through with a VR headset, but even if you don't have a VR headset, I can recommend that you go ahead and try it. Even if it's just a matter of following along for what he presents, I definitely recommend it. Doing VR is a very interesting experience. I actually did my intro to game development as a whole was actually through VR because I was involved in a VR extracurricular project. So yeah. Anything important to know about Unity? Download it early. It takes a very good long time to download, especially if you're downloading it along with Visual Studio. I definitely recommend getting that there. But I guess a more direct answer would be Unity is one of the biggest benefits, I think, of working with an established engine like Unity is that there's a lot of resources out there, and there's a ton of tutorials. But also there's a lot of patterns that people have come up with for the engine that are very, very simple and useful. Like if you look up the Unity, I think it's called like the Unity grid pattern or the Unity start scene pattern. It's a really famous Stack Overflow post where just this person just describes like the system that they use to set up the Unity games. And it's a very useful system when it comes to, creating multiple scenes and managing them and, keeping entities alive through the scenes. And I believe that the basic system is just you make one pre-start scene. Most of this is not going to make sense if you're new to the engine, but to keep it, there's a lot of people that have done a lot of work with the engine already. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, I definitely recommend that you look up whatever troubles you're having with. A lot of the time, some of them might be difficult to understand if you're new, at which point I can definitely recommend that you check out our mentors. We have a few mentors that are experienced with game development. We even have a couple of representatives from Xbox as well. One of them being one of our alumni that used to teach the Unity workshop. So he's very familiar with Unity as well. So we have some good mentors that I can recommend. But yeah, Unity, have fun with it. It's an easy to use engine, but it can be a little frustrating with the way that it handles things. But it's my engine of choice. For the most part, it's what I started with, and I think it's very good at what it does. Any libraries for JavaScript web games? Give me 1 second. I have one that I always look up. There it is, Phaser. So Phaser.io is a JavaScript web engine. It's the one that I said that I think that was my first contribution on GitHub. But yeah, it's a simple JavaScript, like easy to use rather, JavaScript web, game engine. I can recommend it. It's probably the most popular one that I know of. I do know there's a couple of other ones that are out there that are used a lot, but the one that I always think of when I think of JavaScript game engine libraries is Phaser. So you can install Unity through Unity Hub, actually. So on the Unity Hub, let me pull up the Unity Hub, actually. But on the Unity Hub, there should be like an installs panel on the left. And I believe it's called installs or versions or something like that. But from there, you can actually go and you can choose which version of Unity you want to download through there. And if not, I believe you can actually just look up like how to download Unity through Unity Hub, and it'll show you like a simple step-by-step instructions on their website. And if you're just starting Unity, actually like a very Unity specific like suggestion is this is the Unity tutorial that I always recommend everybody starts with if you've never worked in the engine. It's called Rollerball, because it is basically a very good tutorial because it just walks you through all of the different parts of the engine and what the engine does. As far as like it walks you through the menus, and it's a very simple system, but it teaches you how to set up all the different courses that you need, I think, to move on further. What is my profession? I'm still a student. I do want to clarify that I am still a student. I'll be graduating soon. But right now I'm actually interning at EA, Electronic Arts. So right now I'm interning there. I'm working on Madden. So that's been a really cool experience. This is my second time with them. So hoping that I get that full-time offer. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Thank you so much. I hope that everybody found this a little bit useful. Like I said, I'll be dropping all of those links in the game development channel. And yeah, I will be hanging around the entire weekend, of course. I'll be on the server. So if anybody has any more questions or anything, you can always go to the game dev channel and feel free to tag me in there. So yeah, with that, I'll be leaving the room since we've reached our allotted time. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming. And I hope that it was useful. Yeah, I'll drop we're going to open a LinkedIn sharing channel soon, actually. So you can check it out. But if not, you can just look me up, Kevin Lasada. You can just find me on LinkedIn like that. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Have a good night, everyone.